Hello, hello. Welcome to PrepperTalk Radio live. This is our weekly live. This is Scott, and we got Paris in the house. No Shane. No worries about that though, because he is not being audited by Doge. He is safe from being exiled out of the United States. And I don't know if there's anything. Don't worry about drones or aliens. He's in good working condition. He's just predisposed with a family event.
Yep.
But we're here. We're excited. Tonight's going to be a fun episode because we're going to dive deep into library, the most exciting and sexy topic of all, prepping libraries. Like what you should have, what do you have? We're going to get a ton of feedback from the audience because everyone has different ideas of what types of books they should have. I'm just going to do a little book porn here. This is a small stack of books. We're going to go through some of these as well as stuff behind me. We have huge libraries, and you can get a lot of resources over at PrepperTalkRadio.com/library to see some of the books that we have and recommend, highly recommend. You can get over there at Amazon. But best of all is our favorite book, The Ready Radius, a simplified emergency preparedness survival guide. Things you probably don't think about on the regular on how to prioritize your time and focus on an inside-out approach to preparedness. You can get that over at Amazon. Just search for The Ready Radius, and you'll find it. But it's by Shane and myself. We wrote this. Came up with the idea a few years ago. It took us a while to actually put it all down. It's a quick read, but we've had some really good reviews. So go get one and help support the show. All right, libraries. You don't need your library card for this one. This is your home library. Are you excited as I am, Paris?
Yeah, dude. Let's see how many. I didn't realize I had so many books. I was just like, when I started, I know I've bought books over the years and I've kind of built my library, and there's some value to having a digital library, but this is my physical books library, which is some of the reason why I bought books like this is so that, when crap does hit the fan and there's nothing but time, so to speak. And I do need to read these now and I get in my brain some of these things, but also I bought some how-to books because I know that when crap hits the fan, I got nothing but time. I got to learn quick. So I got to do some things. So I bought a library, and that's where if there's no grid, if there's no energy, no power, no electricity, except for what you might have individually with solar power and other things. Like I have a solar panel backup that can power up my laptop. So I can have stuff on my laptop and maybe some drives to be able to read and keep my knowledge going. But there's nothing like having a physical book in your hands that you can read and look at. And I didn't realize, it was heavy. I was like, man, do I need a dolly to get this up the stairs and bring it into the office? Anyways, so I have some really good books that I want to share. I got a couple of new ones, just recent ones that are out, kind of popular right now with those. I guess if those of us in the world of prepping, we get advertised to on Facebook and other places by this by some of these books. But I ordered them and I got them to share too. So
awesome. Well, it's funny because in our chat we've already got some amazing things. Theandra got sick and actually used one of her books from her prepper library. I just passed it here. It's the herbal. Wow, I need new glasses already. Herbal Antibiotics Guide. So check that out. We've got some other books just similar to that. Definitely solutions you can come up with and source locally are going to be your best bet, because when things go super sideways, you want to know where you can get things and how to make it yourself. We're all fans. I've got my copy of the Nicole Appelian Herbal Remedies book upstairs. It's on my nightstand. I'm actually going through it now. Fantastic book. But we're gonna dive into some of the things in the group chat. They're gonna outline some more options and solutions. But honestly, I don't think you can have enough books. And it's not just prepping books.
You got this book?
Yep, that's the one. Lost Book of Herbal Remedies. And you can, if you go to our website, PrepperTalkRadio.com/library, that's linked there. You can buy it from Amazon, and we get a little kickback on that. Little tiny way to help support the show. You pay the same price either way. But it's funny because as a disclaimer, your library should not just be prepping books. We're going to talk about prepping books today, but you should have good books to read as well. Like some things that I have, I've got kind of an old Harvard library of books. There was the classics set. I keep that. I've got some books for my kids, some educational books, basically from K to 12 that we keep on hand. We do homeschool and we use other books for homeschool primarily, but I refer back to these occasionally. But the nice thing is I have this library in case things go sideways. I can continue to educate my kids all the way through a high school graduated type level, right? So it's more than just having books on hand. Your library should also include things like stock up on paper, right? Lined paper, blank paper, legal pads, whatever, paper, pens, pencils, sharpeners, highlighters if you want, but ways to keep track of things, journals to be able to keep track of things, and definitely as many different maps as you can get for your area and surrounding.
That's a really good idea. I think like the old, I mean, you got to update it every once in a while, perhaps, but those old encyclopedias where you'd get like 20 books or something like that. That would be a good resource to have, something similar to that. I'm reading a book on some really, it's got I got 2 volumes. There's a third one coming out soon. And it's more of a scientific based book, but it really gets into the science of what's going on in the world. It's a physical science book, and it reads like a textbook. But it's also educational. So it's kind of like, I don't know, my kids look at me and they're like, Dad, are you reading a textbook? I'm like, yeah, I kind of am. Because I want to know some of the things that this book says. So you're right. Another really important book to have. And this is kind of going back to, I don't know if you guys remember the old apocalyptic book movie, The Book of Eli.
Oh yeah.
And The Book of Eli was a great movie. And this guy was traveling. It was, oh shoot, what's his name? I can't remember the actor's name right now. Anyways, The Book of Eli, he was traveling to get to this location where he had a special book that he wanted to add to the library that they were collecting because the world had gone to where, and they were trying to collect the wisdom of the world and the wisdom of the ages. And the one book that they didn't have ended up being, I mean, I don't want to ruin it for anybody who hasn't seen it, but it ended up being a Bible. And I was like, you know what? That's a great book to have in your library. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and this guy's name, he's a kind of an influencer, and he's pretty popular with business people and motivational people and manifestation stuff. He said, he asked the podcast host, have you read the Bible? And the guy said, no. And the guy says, you should, because it's worth reading. And the guy was like, yeah, people keep telling me to read the Bible. I'm like, yeah, bro, it's a good, there's lots of great wisdom of the ages in there, whether or not you subscribe to the religious, it's just really good wisdom in there. And then I recommend the religious part of it.
Going back, the character who plays Eli is Denzel Washington.
Denzel Washington, that's the guy.
Like, how did you forget that?
I know, right?
Like, and there it is in our chat. Sorry, I didn't.
He's the equalizer too. Like,
yeah, Denzel, very talented dude. But yeah, like, books are so vital. Why do you think they've been burned by so many societies trying to control populations? Right. Books are a source of knowledge, wisdom, and liberty. Like just some of the stacks of books I have, because I like to buy books at garage sales. And if I see prepping books, I snag all of them, like all of them. I went to a garage sale a few years ago, and I got these 3 books. Survival Shelters by M&M Engineering. But they go, this is all like dives into fallout shelters, different types of fallout shelters. Oh, you can't build a full fallout shelter. Here's how to do one in part of your basement. If you're going to do the whole home, here's how to do it. Here's how to do a shed as a fallout shelter. And they go into like full engineered specs, weight
That's
ratios, awesome. Load like it's what type of steel you're going to use. And then they give all the engineering data to back everything up. And I saw this book and I'm like, done. That's going in the library. Another one, not always a big fan of the American Red Cross, but their survival handbook. I got this one because it was 25 cents, to be honest. but I got it and I started looking through it. I'm like, oh, it's a lot of the same common sense stuff that we talk about. Putting together your first aid kits, first aid things to know. One of the things that I really liked it covered is helping with psychological issues during a disaster, as well as taking care of the elderly and immobilized. So they tried to cover a number of different things. And I was like, oh, that's good information. So I went through and read that. And then the third one that we're going to start off with is this. This is kind of awesome. The $50 and up underground house book.
What?
Like underground homes, like utilizing geothermal heating and cooling. There's a lot of cool stuff in this book. I've started reading it. They talk about fire efficiency, whereas a fire versus a fireplace versus a stove. Like they go through and actually break down different things that work and don't work. How to protect your pipes in freezing times, like benefits of going underground. But I mean, they've got pictures, they've got diagrams. It's pretty fun. These are like all like the very outside, kind of the outside fringe stuff, but they're fun, right? And so I grab them, but the things that make the most sense are things like my first aid kit books, my first aid and medical supply books, my food storage, I have so many gardening and seed books, food preservation, and the thing that I think is often overlooked, cookbooks. Everyone's so used to, oh, I'm just going to hop on this website and get I need a recipe for this. Oh, I found one and I'll use it tonight and then I'll never find it again. Print them off and put them in a binder. But also, like, for the stuff you've stored, you've got to have like cookbooks to go along with that. How many ways can you do wheat? Oh, I don't know. I guess I'll just grind it up. Okay, what else can you do with it? Like, learn the different things you can do. Like, I even have a book that, I don't know where I put it, but it talks about the 4 foods that you absolutely have to have and you can survive for a year, is the whole premise of the book, on wheat, salt, honey, and I think it was just water. So the 4 essential food items. If you can have those for a year, there's enough to survive on it. It had recipes and recipes and recipes, different ways to prep it. And I'm like, all right. But like, there's so many different books to have. Absolutely get cooking books. Either print your own recipes and stockpile those, but stock up as much as you possibly can on that.
Well, talking about your book on sheltering and remodeling your home, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of a guy named Joel Skousen. He has the World Report every year. He's really a smart guy. So if you want to go check out his stuff, he's got some good. He does every year at the end of the year, he'll do a world report on what's going on in the economy, political, world powers. He keeps track of this stuff, and he's done it for many years. So he sees the progress and where we're going. But he put out a couple. He has a library that he sells, and this is called The Secure Home. And he literally goes through in this book how to remodel your house to be a completely secure, safe location. What are those panic rooms? He talks about how to build your basement out so that you completely put cement all around it, just all kinds of stuff. So that one is really cool. And then he's got another one that's called the High Security Shelter that he put out that talks about how to take your current home. It's a little bit of a different, like more of a workbook with it's got all the pictures. It's great for those of us that like to have pictures too. They have lots of pictures in some of these books. But I think it's important. I don't know if I have the cash flow right now to remodel my house completely to become a full-blown military upgraded, kill box, panic room, stuff like that. But it gives you ideas that if you could or needed to, you could reinforce the walls, because if somebody breaks into my house and I need to deploy some Second Amendment precious metals, then I need to, I want to be able to be clear that when I shoot the wall or the wall gets hit, it's not going to go through and kills the person on the other side. So sometimes it goes through how to reinforce the walls in your house as well. So those are some good ideas just to have in case that you get to the point where you can do that.
Amen. It's funny. Theodra pointed out, she asked, does anyone have a copy of the Boy Scout books from the 1940s? Those are hard to find. If you get one, hold on to it. I've got a 1960s version. The older, the better. You've got more information in there. One of the newer ones is actually kind of good. That's because it's spiral bound, but it doesn't have as much good information. It's more laboriously written. The newer one, here's everything you need to know about a thing that should be told in like 3 steps. They're like, here's the history of the steps. Here's the future of the steps. Like, I don't need to know all that. I just need to know what to do and when to do it. And the older ones are very concise. But fantastic things. Other books in the chat. This is awesome. The Anarchist Cookbook. Thank you, Practical. There's also Rebecca points out, she's super picky. She doesn't like cookbooks, but she has a 4-inch binder that has sheet protectors filled with every recipe she likes. And if I like it, I print it and it goes in the book, and I have 2 copies in each sleeve. Oh, that's cool. We have so many cookbooks upstairs. My wife is quite the baker, so we've got tons and tons of good stuff. The more you have, the more books you have, the better. But here's the thing: books do no service unless you actually read from them and use them.
Yeah, sitting on the shelf, it's not going to help.
Just sitting on the shelf it's nice to have, but you need to know how to handle yourself in an emergency. You need to know how to cook already, right? You need to know how to preserve food already, and you need to know multiple methods so that if one method is no longer available, you've got the backups to do it. You've got the nice thing about having the books is it gives you the extra time. If you know some ways to do something with limited or no power, reading a book can teach you other ways to extend that, right? And so have knowledge and experience up front, but then add books to be able to extend that knowledge and extend your survivability beyond what you currently have. I think that's one of the biggest areas where all of us can improve. Maybe not Practical. He's probably already on top of that. He's our good example.
He's writing the books. Practical's writing.
Yeah, he's legit. If you guys haven't followed him, give Practical Civilian Official a follow on YouTube. I want to absolutely, the more the better.
Sandro Davis asked the question. He said, "There's a book by a Navy SEAL veteran just put out about everything prepping. Has anyone heard of it?" And I think you're talking about a Navy SEAL's bug-in guide. I just got this in the mail the other day. There's a knockoff, so be careful about the knockoff. But this one is by Joel Lambert. This is supposed to be the legit one, and this has everything that you could think about. There's like just to give you an example, I told Scott and Shane, dude, you guys need to buy this book because there's some great topics for some future episodes in here, like household items you need to hoard before it's too late. 10 things that will become extremely valuable after an EMP. The only 4 knots you need to know for survival. How to one of the things was how to stay under the radar from when FEMA comes knocking or something like that. Like there's some really cool things in here that help you to stay safe and to keep yourself from getting discovered by nefarious actors. After best guns for self-defense to have at home. How to stockpile a ton of water for 365 days without going bad. So there's some great tools in here. I'm just starting it. I just got it myself, so I'm just going to start reading that too. Another one that I got, I know Nicola Pellion put out her book on the lost remedies, but then she has this new book. The new book that Nicola Pellion put out is the Home Apothecary.
Oh yeah,
and this has 250 recipes in here for things like. There's all kinds of things: anti-itch plantain band-aid, anti-mosquito salve, homemade quinine, anti-inflammatory root infusion, bug off different herbal sprays. It even has I think it's supposed to have things in here for men's health, for certain parts of men's health. Anyways, there's increasing natural ways to increase testosterone and stuff like that. So just a lot of really, when I told my wife I ordered it, she's like, "Oh, that's so cool. We're going to make some cool stuff." I'm like, yes, that's what I was hoping for.
Well, it's good. It's the more you know, the better. And the more you practice, the more you can tweak things to get things the way you like it. Like for example, I used to do a lot of dehydration and food drying. I haven't done it in years, and I just broke out I got a flank steak, not a flank steak, flank beef flank. Yeah, just a beef flank roast. And I'm going to be turning that into jerky in the next couple of days. But I broke out my guide to remind myself, okay, how do I do this the right way? Because it's been so long.
Mm.
If I didn't have this, then I'd have to rely on the internet or find another book. And I'm like, oh, I've got books about that in my library. Let me revisit that.
Hey, Rebecca, I just answered your question. Do I think that Navy book is worth it? I would look at the table of contents. I think that you can look at the table of contents for free on Amazon. They let you see the table of contents and see if there's anything that's covered there that's not covered by the other books you have. I bought it because I thought it would be a great resource, and I have it wasn't a burden for me financially to pick it up, but I added it to my shelf. I haven't started reading it yet. But it's on my shelf to start reading. My next is going to be one of the next, once I'm finishing up a book right now. And as soon as I'm finished with that one, I'm going to start reading this one. So I'll have more to talk about it over as time goes on in different episodes. So stay tuned. But I think if you can look at the table of contents and see that it's got everything you already have books for, then probably don't pick it up. But if you don't, then definitely pick it up. But, oh yeah, Practical Lost Ways. I have that book too, right here.
I was going to say The Lost Ways and also The Lost Amish Ways. Those are both great books.
So I have the Lost Ways right here. That one of the reasons why I picked up The Lost Ways is because of that pemmican or whatever it is, that food that you can eat. And they talked about making that super easy in here with the recipes and everything. And I'm like, dang, that's something that I want to have.
I can't remember. Mine's upstairs. I can't remember. Does it have hardtack in there too? Do you know what hardtack is, Paris?
No, I don't think so. Well, maybe I do, but I don't know it by that name.
It's fantastic, but it's the worst. So hardtack is basically the toughest biscuit you'll ever make, and it's got like a 50-year shelf life. Like when Lord of the Rings came out, and they talked about this elvish bread, and that they're like, oh, it's the elvish bread, and a bite will feed a man for a day, and then the hobbits are like, how many did you eat? And one guy's like 5 or something like that, right? I thought of hardtack because I'm like, as a kid, my grandpa would have us take hardtack camping. And I always was like, why? Because if it's hard, it's hard. Like it is rock hard. So you've got to like put it in water and like soften it in some cases, but it can last a really long time. Just like pemmican. Pemmican can last a really long time. And you're basically drying meat and berries, and then you're mixing it and then making it into a food bar. But yeah, the shelf life on these things is fantastic. No preservatives, no additives, no garbage. The more we can learn to go back naturally, the longer we're going to do really well for.
Yeah, I'm just looking through the table of contents here. It's like teaches you how to make soap and how to. Even says like how our ancestors made knives and tools and other things. And I don't see the hardtack. I mean, it might be in here. I just don't see it on the table of contents. So I don't have it. I think another, there's other things like this book here is called No Grid Survival Projects. And these are things that you can do with no power, different things you can build, ways that you can maybe even build some furniture. It even talks about like even helping you organize your current food storage a little more efficiently. So they're projects that aren't just for once the grid goes down, what you can do to kind of build, but it also I can see on the picture here, for example, they have a pre-built, a way you can build shelves for your 55-gallon drums so that it kind of one feeds the next one, which feeds the next one. So it's like a feeding system for your 55-gallon drums, which is really a good idea. And you can have them up on one on top of each other instead of next to each other in ways that you can really kind of do that. It even has a way you can build your own greenhouse.
Well, the nice thing about that is it allows you to rotate your water. So it's not just being stored the same way forever, right? And you're not having to tip a big 55 drum over to try to empty it or use one of those little hand pumps. There's so many good resources in there.
This book has how to build hardtack. Is that what you're talking about?
There you go.
This one,
it's
the
good to have.
Survival Projects has. I opened it right up and it was like how to make hardtack, and I was like, oh well, that's my stupid screen here. There we go.
There you go.
How to build hardtack. So that's kind of cool.
Rebecca Burton. She asked, "Did my message earlier inspire tonight's topic?" No, but thank you. We actually had this topic on our schedule for almost a month. But yeah, absolutely a necessity to go over this topic a couple times a year because new books come out, other content comes out. I, in addition to my books, I have a digital library, and I know some of you might be listening to this going, "You idiot! Why do you have a digital library?" And I'm like, "Well, because I don't feel like transcribing every video I've ever watched." I have a secondary laptop. I keep that in a Faraday bag. I have a secondary hard drive that every once in a while, if I saved some videos, I'll download those videos and then I'll connect that hard drive to my primary laptop and then I'll move those videos to that. Not just educational videos. I've also got movies that I bought that I've moved to that as well. So it's like I want to have that digital library in case I can still use it because sometimes you just want to watch something. So your
Yeah.
library doesn't have to be just books. But before I jump into other things you can have in your library, I wanted to see if there's any other books that you really wanted to hit and drive home on for a bit.
So I just, yeah, let me go. It's on my other chair over here real quick.
Okay. Theta, our top 10 is actually on our website. It's like our top 15. If you go to preppertalkradio.com/library, those are kind of the top 15 books that we like to have.
So I thought it was on my chair over here, but I have another book on my shelf downstairs. I didn't bring it up. I don't know why I didn't grab it, but it's actually a book that you can buy at Home Depot. And it's basically how to make repairs. It's kind of like a contractor's DIY, contractors for dummies kind of a book. And it's the 1, 2, 3 guide at home. You buy it at Home Depot, and it basically goes through all the major projects, how to do some plumbing, how to do electrical, how to fix your faucets, how to fix and repair different things. And I think those are also some really good skills. They're not specific to, so to speak, prepping for the apocalypse or anything, but shoot, man, the other day, my, my son said, "Dad, the drain in the sink, the drain stopper fell in, and he pulled it out, and it was like it wasn't going up and down, and so it was filling up. So he pulls it out, and I go in there and I go around, and the rod that you pull when you pull the thing up and down, the rod that moves the drain stopper had rusted so bad that it completely fell off inside the drain and fell down. So I had to get a little thing, and I got a grabber and pulled it out and threw it away. But I had to replace that rod with a new rod, and I ordered the wrong one. It was too big, and then I ordered a new one, and it came and it was just right, but then it was too long, and so I had to cut it. Anyways, there was a bunch of fun things that I learned in the process of doing that. But that's just, who knows? Tomorrow you guys could have, like, couple weeks ago on Sunday, my garage door just stopped working and like totally almost broke and bent into a bunch of other things. So the point is that you need to have books. It's good to be how to understand how to do a few things, like even mechanic books. Like I would say, if you're not mechanically inclined for cars and you rely on your mechanic a lot, maybe it's time to get a book on how to, work on your engine. That's me. I know Scott and Shane, they're already kind of pros with their engines and their cars, and they can fix stuff. But I'm like, all I know is that I plug the key in, I turn the thing and push the pedals, and it goes. Like I can jump start it. I can, I know how to put oil in. Like the extent of my car knowledge is limited. So it'd be helpful for me to have a couple books about that.
Well, it's funny because I just got a book for last year I got a book for my Toyota Sequoia, maintenance guide for my Toyota Sequoia. It's the one from Toyota. It's fantastic. I still have the one for my Toyota 4Runner. They're very much similar. But I was doing most of the maintenance on my Toyota 4Runner because of that book. It saved so much time learning and having a resource guide to help me through so many things. But also, a lot of the videos that I've downloaded are for car maintenance stuff. Not just explaining how to fix it, but showing me how to fix it, where things are located. That's why I have so many videos on my backup drive. It's a 2 terabyte drive. And it is all the stuff from my car. And I like older cars. I wish I had even funnier older cars. So that I have, the older the car, the easier it is to work on. Right. And I want to get an old truck. I definitely want to get an old truck. It would be just so fantastic. But here, for some of those who don't have access to the web right away, here's some of the top 10 books that we have on our website. The Lost Book of Herbal Remedies by Nicola Pellion, Preserving with a Purpose. That's from Sarah Thrush, also known as Peelies and Petals.
Oh, I
love
need to
this
get that
book.
one.
It's fantastic. We interviewed her a while ago. She's just super awesome. How to save basically $10,000 a year by doing food preservation. The 2024 edition of the new Prepper Survival Bible, Back to Basics, which I have somewhere around here. The FM 2176.
This one, Back to
Survival
Basics?
Guide, which I have over here. There you go, Back to Basics. Back to Basics is in this stack over here. Seed Saving Bible, which I've got upstairs. Basic Engineering, and this book, the Pocket Reference Guide by Thomas J. Glover, is one that Shane swears by. Like, as far as understanding pretty much everything with heat, viscosity, sound, temperatures, like electrical conduction, like all the standards and definitions and emissions of everything. Like everything. He swears by this book. It's a black book with gold lettering, Pocket Ref. He says he uses this book all the time.
I've seen him pull it out. He's pulled it out before.
Oh yeah, many times. Like, I wish he was on this episode because like he could explain why he has it and what he uses it for. But it's awesome. Other books that I have that are on our top 10, obviously the Boy Scouts, Wild Edible Plants, 100 Deadly Skills Survival Edition, Bushcraft 101, and then the Survival Medicine Handbook. I would probably put in our top. Is that 10 yet? That's 12. Top 12. Those books one? Plus many others. Yeah, that book is fantastic. We've got that one by our first aid kit, and we review it from time to time.
There's another one that I've got too that says Where There Is No Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is another good one to get. I don't know if you it's on, I don't know, it may not be on our list, but it's definitely another good one to get. Where There Is No Doctor by David Werner, Werner. I don't know if you guys have, this is probably more of a tactical book, but the SAS Survival Handbook, this is a good one. It's if you're wondering, that's not part of the, that's somebody spilled something. Anyways, I actually am about 100 pages in on this one, and I got distracted, and so I should go back to it and finish it. When I looked at all these books, like last year I made a goal to read a bunch of books, and I ended up far surpassing the amount of books. And I realized that not one of the books that I read last year was a survival book. And I'm like, I got all these great books. So this year I'm going to add several of the books. I'll probably get through. My goal is to get through several of these books this year and really kind of feed that knowledge base, because I need to do that.
So one of the things in the comments, Practical shared this. This is why I like older cars. One thing that people overlook is that new vehicles take computers to find the problems. So an intermediate scan tool should be in their library to diagnose and repair those things. I steer clear of the newer vehicles because there's so many electrical components, so many different chips and motherboards, and this connection is connected to this. Like in my Sequoia, the thermostat for the vehicle has this little piping that goes through it that then has a switch that if that switch isn't functional for the thermostat in the vehicle for the engine, it doesn't allow me to control my interior thermostat. So if that degrades, which it did, and goes out, my interior controls don't work, but my engine control continues to work. It's the weirdest thing. Toyota make it make sense to me. I don't know why, but it's the only vehicle I've ever had that has that, and it took forever to figure out why is this not working. I can turn the fan on and off, but I can't change the temperatures, switch it to AC or to heat. It's fixed, but you've got to, if you don't have the resources to figure things out, like this one was a device that it wasn't a chip that ran it. So it was a fumbling and figuring it out thing. Spent a ton of time on the web to try to figure out who else has had this problem, found out what it was, figured out the solution, replaced it. It was a $60 part. But I probably spent 5-6 hours trying to figure out, once I found out what was causing it, what part number I needed. That was horrible. Trying to find the right part number for the vehicle. So then I could order it. It was a whole thing. Post-apoc, it's going to get harder. So having the right books with instructions on what you need, but also older cars or cars that are more frequently sold, that are in a large supply that you can get at a junkyard, because there's going to be a scavenge point where you're going to have to go find pieces that'll work to maintain those vehicles, if you can even maintain those and keep them going, right? Because you're going to have a fuel source. You can make your own gasoline and diesel fuels, but if you've never done it, you're not going to figure it out unless you have the right resources and instructions on what to do and how to do it. So add that to your library. Other things that I really like: kids books, coloring books. I have tons of board games. We don't call that like library stuff, but when you go to the public library, they've got all kinds of weird stuff. DVDs, VHS, like you can, maybe they still have VHS. I don't know. But they have DVDs. You can get check out DVDs for free at the library, but they also have other activity books and things you can get, like as many activity books as possible. Because if there's no TV and you don't have power to just kick up the laptop and play whatever you've downloaded, having something for the kids is vital. Like, you do not want to entertain your kids in an post-apocalyptic scenario.
Or do you want to have things already planned to prepare your kids? Because that's something that especially in today's time frame, like back in 100 years ago, kids could entertain themselves really well. You'd say, hey, see you in the morning, be back before dark, and they were fine. In fact, kind of funny, my family, I have some cousins that moved to Alaska, and they couldn't tell their kids to be home before dark during certain periods of the year because it didn't get dark. And so they would never come home. But back in the day, man, kids would go outside and they'd play. I remember going out and playing. I'd come home. Hey, Mom, do I have to come home already? Yeah, no, you keep playing. And you go play for another hour or two and then come back. Now it's like, kids, get the heck out of the house. Go do something. And so as they're transitioning from the today's world of devices that keep them entertained to learning how to use their imagination and play outside and really do some of that stuff, there's going to be a transition of detoxing from these devices into some things that they're going to need to have. And I think that's a great point, to have some good books. My kids love to read, so that's kind of cool. So I'm going to tell them, hey, get some books that aren't just resource books, but entertainment books as well. Keep those. We have a little bit of, they buy books and then they'll keep them on the shelf so that they can keep that. Like we have all the Harry Potter books and the whatever Twilight, whatever vampire books or whatever. So there's, I don't read those things.
Filth. 50 Shades of Grey for a kid.
I watched the movie. I watched the movie because I don't want to ruin the book, or I don't want to ruin the movie, so I don't read the book.
That's horrible.
That's my brother, dude. My brother says, I don't read books because I don't want to ruin the movie.
It's funny because, like, growing up, I was a big comic book kid, and I've got a few comic books still that I've stored and kept. But like, I watched the Marvel movies and I'm like, that's not it. That's not canon. It's new canon. They're like making up stuff all the time. And I'm like, yeah, it ruins the comic books. That's how dumb, like, that's how dumb that statement is in my life. Because many a comic books have been ruined because of that. But getting back on library and like having things on hand, Practical makes a really good point. If you've got older vehicles, have extra parts on hand, right? Have things, the most frequently broken parts to that vehicle, have those on hand.
And not just vehicles too, like things in your home that are important. Like I just had, like I shared with you earlier, or maybe it was last episode, I can't remember now, my brain is not working, but I just had my garage door stop working, and the guy came and they replaced the garage door and all the wheels and all the trimmings and all the stuff and the new spring and everything. But he said the actual machine that pulls the door up and down, they didn't replace that because it wasn't broken. But the guy told me, he says, that particular machine, they've stopped making spare parts. So if it does break down, we probably will just have to replace it. And I thought to myself, dang, either I need to start buying spare parts that go out traditionally, or I need to get something else. Like my other brother, who is frequently on the show, I don't know if he's listening or watching right now, but he had one of the parts of his refrigerator go out, and he ended up doing a little bit of a DIY on how to fix it. And instead of ordering just the one, he ordered a couple of the parts so that if it goes out again, he has it on hand and he can fix it again. So there's even different, what are they called? Appliances, sorry, different appliances in your house. You should have a couple spare parts of the important things. And we can't have every spare part to rebuild the whole thing, but at least some of the most obvious things that go out, you should have a couple spare parts of those things, I think, as well.
Well, and same thing for like your livestock. If you're going to go the horse and buggy route, or if you already have a dog or a cat, like get veterinarian books and read up on these things. A lot of the stuff that we're talking about is not the most exciting read. It's not like reading Angry American series, the survival series books, right? It's not, wow, this is amazing. It's hard read. It's most of the time boring, but it's vital things for you to know.
You're basically reading a textbook.
Hmm?
I think that's a good point too. Practical has in your library. You should have some atlases for your area, some maps, and those are some really. That's another book that's not really a book, but it's usually put together, bound in a book. Different maps for your area, topographicals. GPS is not going to be working if the grid goes down, and you need to have some maps. I think that's a really good idea. Practical. Thanks for bringing that up.
So another book I got recently, actually I got this last year, but I'm digging it, is Bible charts, maps, and timelines to go with my scripture studies. This is awesome because it gives me visuals and timelines of like who was alive when. I love having as many books, textbooks, and guides around for all the things that I'm currently interested in, because then I can continue those studies, right? Forever and ever. And the other nice thing about textbooks is you'll read something in a textbook or a resource guide and part of it'll click, but not all of it, usually on the first go through. But then as you revisit something, more of it clicks and you're like, oh.
Well, one thing I like to do is I would like to read a book once, I just read it through. That way, when I'm in a situation in the world and I'm having an interaction, my mind can say, remember that book? There was something in that book that will help you. And I call it, the Holy Spirit reminding me, but whatever it is, your memory can bring that to your remembrance. And then you can go look at the book to get the actual details and say, okay, now how do I remember a lot of key words, key phrases. And I'm thinking to myself, where did I read that? Oh, it was that book. Okay, I'll go to that book and I'll read the rest of it. And I'm like, oh, now I remember. So that's something that helps me. I feel like there's a scripture in, I think it's in John, that the Holy Ghost will bring everything to your remembrance. And I'm like, well, if it's you got to get it in there to get it to be remembered. And so
that's a good point.
I'm just, when I read books, I'm just like, let's just get the info in there, just pile it in, and then let the Holy Ghost give me my remembrances as they need to.
Help you become what's the photographic later, or eidetic, where you just remember everything always.
Yeah, one day.
Hey, do you remember when I told you that story about my toenail? Oh yeah, that was on February 3rd, 1846. Like, what? Yeah, and you lost. It was a hangnail, and then what? Like, they know everything. It's crazy. But yeah, like if you don't put the information in and you need it, you're not going to know where to find it. You're not going to have a recall or the ability to access it. So get the books, get whatever you can get now. Like, one of the questions that was popped in here, and this is kind of where we're going to close on, is like how to get them and where to put them, right? Getting the right stuff for your library. You can get it a number of different places. I've been to the bookstores. I've bought books online. Amazon, obviously, they got their whole start with selling books. Like, you can get a ton of books there. But a lot of these guides and books that I've got at moving sales, garage sales, and what do you call it when someone passes away? The
estate sales.
Estate sales specifically, you get a lot of really good old books. Because no one I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Like, I get books for 10 cents that are amazing.
I had a client and her dad died, and she's like, hey, Paris, I know you like to read books. My dad has a whole huge library and none of his kids wanted the books. I'm like, are you crazy? He's got some, I knew her dad too. I'm like, her dad's got some good books. I went over there. She's like, you can have any books you want. And I'm like, do you have a box? Cause I'm going to load it up.
Yeah, other books to have, books on bicycles, bicycle repair. Then also like have all like going back, have all the stuff that you need to tools, replacement parts to be able to keep those things going. Um, I don't keep my books in my garage at all because I'm concerned with anything getting in there and ripping them apart, especially rodents. So I keep books in the most visible places in my office, in my bedroom, and in my family room. I've got my books spread out into those three places. Um, Easily accessible, but I've also, this is very important, I've also listed every one of my books on my spreadsheets. So if there's a fire and I lose my home, guess what, insurance company? I've itemized all my items that are most important to me.
Very good
Not
point.
necessarily every grain of wheat, but every poundage of wheat is recorded. And I do pictures and I upload pictures to it, but I've got pictures of my libraries. I save these books. I've got books everywhere. I even have books in boxes because I'm planning on moving. I've already moved them to boxes that will go in my future office library area. So having them, but also knowing where they are, like I've got part of my first aid and survival stuff in my bedroom, part of it in my office. But used bookstores are great. There are some places we can actually download a digital copy of the whole book, a PDF guide, whole book, print those off. It can get expensive. Some libraries will let you print for super cheap, oftentimes a lot cheaper than going to a local printer place. But if you don't have a printer, check out what your library offers, because a lot of places will offer up to 50 pages a day for free with a library card. So, and the other cool thing is you can have multiple library cards. Like in most library networks, you can have out of library network cards that they'll still take. So I live in a county called Davis County, but they'll take all of these Salt Lake County library cards as well. They're two different systems, but they'll still allow you to use them. And I can get 15 to 30 minutes of internet with my and computer usage with my Salt Lake City library card. And I can get 30 minutes to an hour with my Davis County library card at my Davis County libraries. It's like silly, weird rules, but it gives you extra time. Great tip here. Place your books inside a 55-gallon drum, then in cardboard boxes. That way, if your boxes get wet, the books will be protected. Yes, I also try to keep my books, except for the ones that I packed, which I'm dumb right now. They're on the floor in boxes, but they're in an area of the house that gets no water. If we have a leak, we have another floor below us, and I have no bathrooms on this side of the house that could get to these. But there's always that risk, right? That's the thing. If it's there's always a chance, so I can't count it out completely. But I'm trying to be smarter about it. I'll move these up pretty soon. But I like that, putting them in a drum or putting them in a garbage bag or not a garbage can. Same thing, something to keep them dry, because you don't want these getting wet and not being able to use them. That's the worst. All the pages stuck together, that book's done.
Yep.
Same thing.
That's so true. I think another thing too is if you order nowadays, they have all these funnels that you click, funnel or whatever funnel it is. There's a different that was just the one major brand name that most people know about. But for example, I got this book too, Survival MD. Survival MD is a good one. I think this is by that buddy of yours, White, somebody or other. Oh, he was Tyler White. I think he was promoting it anyways.
Yeah,
maybe
so Survivopedia published
he didn't buy it, but he didn't write it, but he was promoting Survival MD.
Yeah.
Anyways, when you go and buy some of these books, they'll have like, oh, by the way, if you upgrade, for another $9.99 today only, this offer goes away if you click away. So don't click away. Those kind of guys. They'll have a bunch that you can download. And so I found out I bought I think it was when I bought the Lost Ways book. There was all these other ones that you could download. And so I went for the upgrade. I said, yeah, what the heck? I was a sucker on that one. But then the next time, I bought Nicole Appelian's Home Apothecary book, and she had the same thing of all the different downloads for PDF versions of different other books that they weren't selling in hard copy. And I kind of compared with the ones that I had already downloaded, and I looked at it and I thought, you know what? I already have all these ones. So I didn't have to buy them again and again and again. So just remember, like, if you buy any of these books where they have like a bunch of different upgrades or additional resources, whether you download them, at least the first time, download those, get those and have them in a download, then save them on a drive that's not going to be, that's going to be more accessible. Like they're on my thumb drive, not on my hard drive on my computer, so I can get to them. So I think that those may not ever be hard copy. They may not sell them hard copy, but at least I have them in PDF form. And that's another, like you said earlier, Scott, having your digital library. And as long as you have power, like a solar power bank or some way to, you know, to light up your laptop, you should be able to access those into the zombie apocalypse.
So here's one of my little Faraday bags, and here is my hard drive. It's a 2 terabyte drive. It's got so many things on there, but I've only got like a third of it used.
Nice.
Like, what's crazy though is you can now get a thumb drive that's like a 2 terabyte drive. Like, there's data storage is getting easier and easier. Then you don't need as big of stuff to store it, but I should probably, because I haven't fully tested this bag, but I should probably get some more Faraday cages, not cages, but bins, make a couple bins to put that in. Oh, stuff falling over here. But the thing is there's always more you can learn. There's always more that you can stockpile. Books are an easy thing to get more of for very cheap. If you're keeping an eye out every time. Summer's a great time of year to go find books because moving sales, garage sales, all those kinds of things, you can find books on the cheap. People are like, you know what? I don't read this stuff anymore. I'm just going to get rid of it. Estate sales are the best. Used bookstores are great. eBay has a lot of stuff, used books. But find local groups that get rid of books, things like that. Same thing with any other prepping materials you can look for, shovels and stuff like that, pickaxes, tools, canning supplies. Estate sales are the place to be for a lot of those stuff. So stock up while you can before you can't. Any final thoughts before we cut out for the night?
No, I think this has been a great topic of discussion. And if you guys have any other books that are really super valuable, I think we've pretty much, I thought earlier, Rebecca said something. She's like, every time Paris holds up a book, I'm like, yep, I got that one. Yep, I got that one. Yep, I got that one. And I was like, that's super awesome. So, I mean, sounds like we have a lot of the same library books, which is awesome. That which means we're all on the same page. Either we're all duped or we're all, doing the right things. But if you find another book that's even better, or like you come across something that's really valuable, and you want to, let us know and give it to the resources tab of our page, shoot us an email, shoot us a message, and let's stay in touch because, the more all of us know, the better we all are. So that's my final thought.
Amen. Guys, go check out our website, PrepperTalkRadio.com. You'll see a list of books that we recommend over on the library page, as well as if you go to, from our homepage, it links our book, The Ready Radius. You can get your copy over at Amazon. Super cheap, great little book, helps you prioritize and plan for all your preparedness needs. It's a great little resource guide. It's first volume. We're going to drop a second volume probably next year as we get more things written and prepared. So thank you for tuning in and not tuning out. Keep that head on a swivel. Stay blessed and not stressed. We'll catch you on the next episode. Have a great night.
Take care, guys.